So we are seeing that how different leaders, have wanted in our constitution what is their idea of India. First, we've discussed Mahatma Gandhi, where he says that he doesn't want the burden which we had from the past colonial rule to continue, and he want to release India from all the patronage and treadlim. Okay, and then he talks about effective voice, no division of people on the basis of class, perfect harmony, and there shouldn't be the curse of untouchability or intoxicating drinks or drugs. And he also says that he wants same rights, whether it is for men or for women or for any other gender. Okay, and then we talk about Mr. B.R. Ambedkar. He says that yes, on 26 January 1950, India is going to enter a life of contradictory. When he talks about contradict, when he what he means about this life of contradiction is that on one part, if we see political life, where this whole thing about rights and equality is there. In politics, we say that one man one vote, one man one value, will be given that. Whereas in your social and economical life, financial life, this you everybody will not have the same equality, same status, and that is how people will be denied equality, because people, some will be rich, some will be poor, and there will be no principle of one man one value in our economic and social structure. And this is what he's saying, that maybe if we continue to deny this long for long time, we will also do only by putting our social democracy in peril. We might end up putting our political democracy in peril. So you can see the two different views of our very important leaders of our country, Mr. Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar. Finally, let us turn to Jawaharlal Nehru's speech. In his turn to Jawaharlal Nehru giving a speech to the Constituent Assembly at the stroke of midnight on August 15, 1914, 7. So let's see, we've heard about two very important leaders. Let's see what Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru had to say. Long ago, okay, this is the speech, okay. Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. So he's saying that India will be awake to life and freedom. A moment comes, which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance. So he's saying that we're going from a old to a new, and this is also when one age ends, and finally the soul of a nation which was long suppressed, it will find say, utterance, matlab to say something, to like utter, like if I'm uttering this is, I'm uttering a word. Okay, it is fitting that at this solemn moment we take the pledge of dedication to the service of nation. And he's saying that it is this moment that, this, when we find when we get independence at the stroke of midnight, at right at 12 a.m., we take a pledge of dedication to the service of India and her people, service of India and her people, and to the still larger cause of humanity, and still the larger cause of humanity above all, beyond religion, beyond division between class and people, everything. There's this larger cause for which we all have to work, which is humanity. Freedom and power brings responsibility. So he's talking that, power and freedom, if you've given, if you are the if you are, for example, if you are a minister or something like that, you will have freedom and, the power to make decisions. But with power, with great power comes great responsibility. So that's what he's saying. The responsibility rests upon this assembly, a sovereign body representing the sovereign people. of India. Before the birth of freedom, we have endured all the pains of labor. Our hearts are heavy with the memories of this sorrow. Some of those pains continue even now. Nevertheless, the past is over and it is the future that beckons to us now. So he's saying, I know we all have gone through a lot of pain, and we still have the memory of that sorrow, and but past is over and now the future is standing, just in front of us. The future is not one of ease or resting, but of incessant striving, so that we may fulfill the pledges we have so often taken, and the one we shall take today. So the future which is about to come, or it's standing in front of you, it is not of ease, or it is not a very, it's not going to be easy. There has to be incessant strive, of all the to work for all the pledges we've taken, and the pledge we are going to take today at the stroke of this midnight. The service of India means the service of the billions who suffer. So he's talking about the surface of the billions. There are so many people who have their daily struggles in life, and so other things. So he's talking about that struggle. It means the ending of poverty and ignorance and disease and the inequality of opportunities. He's saying that he wants to end poverty and ignorance and diseases and the inequality in opportunity. The ambition of the greatest men of a generation has been to wipe every tear from every eye. And he's saying that the greatest men of a generation has been, the ambition of a greatest men of our generation has been to wipe tear from every eye. Nobody should cry in our world, in our country. The way that may be beyond us, but as long as there are tears and suffering, so long our work will not be over. He's saying that yes, it is beyond some, we agree that it is beyond our capacity, but as long there are tears and suffering, so long of work. And so he's saying that as long as sufferings and tears are there in people, our work is never going to end. So we have to strive for that, that there is no pain in this world. So, read the three quotations on the above again. So, here are again some of our leaders, we'll study about them. What are the differences in the ways of expressing the common idea? So, we've seen the views of three leaders, whether we talk about Mahatma Gandhi, we talk about B.R. Ambedkar, we talk about Jawaharlal Nehru. We've seen that there is this difference in the ways of expressing that common idea. Everybody wants a nation, prosperous nation India, and all the past, no baggages from the past, from the colonial rule and everything. Everybody has a different way of expressing that thought, that common concept, idea. So, let's talk about the various leaders. First is Kanhaiya Lal Manikal Munshi. He was born in 1887. Death in born in Gujarat till 1971. He was an advocate, historian, and linguist. Linguist is basically people who are related in the work of languages and etc. Jawaharlal Nehru is very famous for linguistic courses. So in the future, if you want to be one of the linguists out there, you can all look up for in the prospectus of Jawaharlal Nehru, and even search for other things. So linguistic is basically about a language, the process and everything. So I'm just giving is if you want to study more about that, what is linguistics and everything. Congress leaders in Gandh, and he was a Gandhian, later Minister of the Union Cabinet, founder of the Swatantra Party. So he was the party who was the founder of the Swatantra Party, historian, linguist, Congress leader, and the Gandhian. Gandhian matlab he followed the principles of Gandhi. Bhim Rao Ramji Ambedkar, born in 1891 in Madhya Pradesh, and death in 1957, chairman of the so he was the chairman of the drafting committee. It's very important. Chairman of the drafting committee, social revolutionary thinker, and agitator against caste divisions and caste based inequalities. Later law minister in the first cabinet of post independence and post independence India, founder of Republican Party of India. Then Shama Prasad Mukherjee, he's actually very famous. He was born in West Bengal in 1901, and he died in the year 1953. He was a minister of industry and supply in the interim government, educationist, lawyer, active in Hindu Mahasabha later, and he was the founder president of Bharatiya Jansangh. The present BJP, actually BJP, and you'll see many other many other parties which actually got divided from that this thing, from the main branch. We are saying, for example, this is A, okay. So this is the main party which gave birth to many other parties. Maybe because the main party, the members of the main party, they had some this thing the difference in views and opinions, so they diverged from that party and then they made their own party. So this A was the main part. We'll study about this in the future textbooks, but I'm just telling you that this is, since it came about Bharatiya Jansangh, so it just came to my mind, click. So it was the main party and then it gave birth to many other parties. For example, here is Bharatiya Jansangh. This is the party that has given birth to BJP. No, it has given birth to BJP and I think many other parties also. But since BJP is it's in the union government, so governing the union government. So I thought, just to tell you that actually BJP was first in Bharatiya Jansangh only, and it is a subdivided party of that. Uh, Also, similarly, the case of Congress, there were many parties which have, branched out from the main Indian National Congress party. Okay, so yes, that's it. Jawharlal Nehru, he was born in Uttar Pradesh, 1989, died in the year 1964, Prime Minister of the interim government, lawyer, Congress advocate of socialism, democracy, and anti-imperialism. He is later the first Prime Minister of India. So he was the first Prime Minister of India. The first President of India was Rajendra Prasad. Sarojini Naidu, born in Andhra Pradesh, 1879, died in the year 1949. She was a poet, writer, political activist, among the foremost women leaders in the Congress, later the governor of Uttar Pradesh. Okay. Somnath Lahiri, born in West Bengal, 1901, died in the year 1984. And he was a writer, editor, leader of the Communist Party of India, and later member of the West Bengal Legislative Assembly. Okay, so that's about him. So we've seen the views about three important leaders. So now let's go further into what are the values. We were doing actually the guiding values of our Indian Constitution. So we've seen the views of very three important leaders of our country. Now let's see about the philosophy of the Constitution, values that inspired and guided the freedom struggle and were in turn nurtured by it, formed the foundation for India's democracy. These values are embedded in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. They guide all the articles of the Indian Constitution. The constitutions begin with a short statement of its basic values. This is called the preamble to the Constitution. So just like, when you open the Constitution, there's like a small sort of a paragraph, or so, that is called the preamble, and it states the basic values that before the constitution begins, that what are the basic values of this thing, constitution, and it guides all the articles of the Indian constitution, that what was the idea behind the Indian constitution that was thought into making it. So let's see. We the people of the United States, so this is of United States, okay, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for life common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this constitution for the United States of America. Okay, So this is the American thing, okay? This is for the American thing, and this is for South Africa. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustice of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our this thing diversity. We therefore, through a freely elected representative, adopt this constitution as the supreme law of the republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Lay the foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people, and every citizen is equally protected by law, improve the quality of life of all citizens, and free the potential of each person, and build a united and democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. May God protect our people. I think this is it's written Akosi Sikla e Africa Morena Boglica Setihal. I think this is in their African language, so I shouldn't read that because I won't. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Okay, this is I think this portion is written in African language. I don't know how to read African, and that won't be do we won't do justice to it. So we've seen of America, we've seen of United States of America. Now let us talk about ours, our constitution. So let's see, okay. So this is our preamble before our constitution starts. This is the first page which tells that these are the basic values of our constitution, and this is the idea, behind everything, how our constitution came about. So let us see. Let us read the preamble of a constitution very carefully and understand the meaning of each of its key words. The preamble of the constitution reads like a poem on democracy. So it's like a poem on democracy. It contains the philosophy on which the entire constitution has been built. So it's a philosophy that how I told you that how our constitution was thought, the thought process. It provides a standard to examine and evaluate any law and action of government to find out whether it is good or bad. It is the soul of our Indian constitution. So it is a soul, okay? So let's read on that. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this constitution. So we've seen, so this is what our constitute preamble to our constitution is all about. We'll see what the important features of these which are highlighted in yellow, what do they mean, okay. First, when we talk about we, the people of India, for whom it is for this constitution is being made. The Constitution of India has been drawn up and enacted by the people through their representatives, and not handed down to them by a king or an outside power. So we see that it is our people who's made this constitution, and it is not simply that we've drawn from the colonial rule. Second, we talk about sovereign. People have supreme right to make decisions on internal as well external matters. No external power can dictate the government of India. It is us who will make the rules for ourselves, and no external power, whether it is any other country or any other power that is going to make rules for us. Socialist. Wealth is generated socially and should be shared equally by all. Government should regulate the ownership of land and industry to reduce the socio-economic inequality. So, this is also what B.R. Ambedkar was saying, that a life of contradiction we will have, whether it is, divided between a political and social and economical life. Third is secular. Citizens have complete freedom to follow any religion, but there is no official religion. The government cannot promote or discriminate between religion. Governments treat all religions, belief and practices with equal respect. They're not going to have favoritism for any particular religion. Then we talk about democratic, a form of government where people enjoy equal political rights, elect their rulers and hold them accountable. The government is run according to some basic rules. Then we talk about republic. Then that is the head of the state, is an elected person and not an hereditary person. Whoever is going to be the head of the person, whether you talk about prime minister, you talk about the chief minister, they're going to be elected by the people of that land, of this land India, and not an hereditary position, not because you're somebody's son, daughter, granddaughter, and falana dhimkana. Seventh is justice. Citizens cannot be discriminated on the ground of caste, religion, gender. Social inequalities have to be reduced. Government should work for the welfare of all, especially of disadvantaged groups. So, we've already read a lot about discrimination and, the laws which are there to support and reduce these differences in our society. 8. Liberty. There are no unreasonable restrictions on the citizens in which in what they think, how they wish to express their thought, and the way they wish to follow up their thoughts in action. So there's no unreasonable. If there is a restriction on that, there has to be some solid reason that why there's a restriction on that way, that how a person should express or should act in a particular way. Equality. All are equal before the law. No, we've already discussed that nobody is above the law. Everybody, no, all the people in our country are equal, and they're equal before the eye of law, and they are to be treated in equal way. Those traditional social inequalities have to be ended. The government should ensure equal opportunities for all. Then 10th is fraternity. All of us should behave as if we are members of the same family. No one should treat a fellow citizen as inferior. All the people in this fraternity, basically we're talking about brotherhood, that all the people are equal and nobody's above, or nobody's superior or nobody's inferior. We're talking about that here. Okay, so we've discussed, compare the preambles of the Constitution of the United States of America, India, South Africa. Make a list of ideas that are common to all these three. Note down at least one major differences among these. Which of these three makes a reference to the past? Of course, it is South Africa. Which because they have had this thing, the system of apartheid, where people were discriminated on the basis of their skin color. Which of these does not invoke god? So invoke god, I think nobody invokes god, or say that this is given by, I think even nobody invokes god as such. Yeah, nobody invokes god. They all are saying that it is by the people, and we are going secure the blessings of liberty of to ourselves and ordain the system. Now nobody talks of god as such, but yeah. So, what is our institutional design? Okay, let's talk about that. And constitution is not merely a statement of values and philosophies. As we noted above, a constitution is mainly about embodying these values into constitutional arrangements. Much of this document called Constitution of India is about these arrangements. It is very long and detailed document, therefore it needs to be amended quite regularly to keep it updated. Just like we update our phones, mobile, there's this software update that comes in mobiles. That is the same way for a constitution. With time and again we need to update the document, because with time some things change. Those who crafted the Indian constitution felt that it has to be accordance with the people's aspiration and change in the society. They did not see it as, yeah, they did not see it as a sacred, static, and unalterable law. So they made provisions to incorporate changes from time to time. These changes are called constitutional amendments. And that is why society moves in forward. There is a time brings change and everything. And we need to keep up with things, and to that we need to make changes. There are called amendments. We need alterations, and That is why, it is not sacred, that this cannot be changed. They have provisions in the constitution which allows for changes. The constitution describes the institutional arrangement in a very legal language, uh, institutional arrangements in a very legal language, through the law and everything. If you read the constitution for the first time, it can be quite difficult for you to understand, yet the basic institutional design is not very difficult to understand. Like any constitution, the Indian constitution lays down procedure for choosing persons to govern the country. It defines, so this is actually very important, that it's not very difficult to understand the constitution. It just lays down a procedure for choosing who will govern the country, and in what, how the decisions, have to be made. And it puts limit to what a government can do by providing some rights to the citizens, that cannot be violated. The remaining three chapters in this book are about these the three aspects of the working of the Indian Constitution. We shall look at some key institutional provisions in each chapter and understand how they work in democratic politics. But this textbooks will not cover all the salient, salient are like important features of, yeah, features of the institutional design. Um, some of your other aspects will be covered in textbooks here, so we won't study all the features here in the book of class 9. We'll study in 10th and maybe 11th and 12th onwards also. So yeah, we've talked about this institutional design. So these are made through laws and everything. It is not just only about values and philosophies, but how these, constitution has embodied these values into institutional arrangements. Whether we talking about giving the right to equality, then we have Supreme Court if that is violated or anything. So how that is designed to give it into a bigger institutional design mechanism, that is what we're talking and focusing on about. So let us do the glossary. Apartheid is the official policy of racial, separation and ill treatment of the blacks, followed by the government of South Africa between 1948 to 1989. Clause a distinct section. Distinct section. We say clause 89 of this is matlab, it is about referring to that particular thing. Constituent Assembly, an assembly of people's representatives that writes a constitution for a country. Constitution is the supreme law of the country, containing fundamental rules and governing the politics and society in a country. Okay, politics and society. Constitutional amendment change. It is talking about the change in the constitution made by the supreme legislative body in a country. Draft a preliminary version of a legal document. So when you make your thesis or research paper and everything, you'll have so many draft, or just for even for so draft can be like if you get a holiday homework. Okay, you'll first prepare and everything, do the questions. You'll the first time you do, and everything, from the first time you do, put your hands on the notebook and do your question till the final submission, it is a draft. And whether you have, when you say that okay, everything is there on your holiday homework and need no more changes, that is the final document. And before that, all the things which you've attempted, tried and everything, these are all the drafts in simple language. Philosophy, the most fundamental principles underlying one's thought and action. Why do you behave in particular way? Why not that? So that's all how our thought process and everything works. And and finally, how we end up acting in a particular way. Preamble, introductory statement in a constitution, which states the reason and guiding values, which states the reason and guiding values of the constitution. Treason is the offense of attempting to overthrow the government. We've seen it's like coup, or criticizing the government, that is still criticizing. See, when we say okay, we'll read about this in other, that we'll just end up discussing along. But attempt, for treason is also like a coup, for example, to overthrow the government, when we talk about the to which the offender owes allegiance. The treason is like doing something wrong, or which is not which is wrong in the eye of the country rules, because it is seen as being this thing, betrayer. Trust is a meeting or meeting place that has been agreed meeting or meeting place that has been agreed upon. Here we're talking about the artist with meeting with you know destiny, that famous speech which is given by Jawaharlal Nehru at the stroke of midnight in when we gained our independence. So here are an exercise you can do. Here are some of false statements. Identify the mistake in each and rewrite these statements correctly on what you've read in this chapter. Leaders of the freedom movement had an open mind about whether the country should be democratic or not after independence. Members of the Constituent Assembly of India held the same views on all provisions of the Constitution. A country that has a constitution must be a democracy. Uh, a constitution cannot be amended because it is a supreme law of the country. So these are false statements, and you have to identify, that had an open mind about whether the country should be democratic or not, or not. So it is not this thing. See, freedom movement had an open mind about whether the country should be democratic. If you're talking about India, then of course we it is wrong, because we always had the clear idea that it will be a democratic country. Members of the same views, no, people have different opinions. How we've already read, seen some of the the speeches given by three leaders important. They had different ways to express it. The opinions were different. Some of whether Mr. Biatkar Ambedkar talked about the life of contradiction, whether we Mr. Gandhi talked about the curse of untouchability or the curse of drugs, and everything. A country that is, it is not necessary whether you are if you have a constitution, you may be a democratic nation. That is not necessary. And a constitution, of course. It can be amended because with time changes are required. Which of these was the most salient underlying conflict in the making of both democratic constitution in India between the white and the black majority, that whether we'll be given the same rights or not. And if they're not given the same, whites are not given the same rights than black, then it is no different than before. First black people were not given rights, and then the white people are not given. So what's the difference? You're just changing the group of people. Which of these is a provision that a democratic constitution does not have? Name of the head of the state, powers of the head of state, powers of the legislator, name of the country. So it is name of the head of the state. So we were here, we were discussing the, of course it is the name of the head is not listed on the democratic constitution because he's to be elected. Okay. And then these are the match the followings. Motilal Nehru prepared the constitution of for India in 1929. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of drafting committee. Rajendra Prasad was the president of the Constituent Assembly. And Sarojini Naidu was a member of the Constituent Assembly. Sovereign, what did Nehru mean by the expression not wholly or in full measure but substantially? He meant that of course India has just got independent. It is not easy to give everything at the first go. People are going to try. So these are the different we've done.